Okay, this has been the craziest week. I am so excited about this story.
Okay, so I was a very big fan of Mr. Rogers when I was a
Mhm.
little kid. And I was worried about him because I had concerns, empathy, whatever for other people. And he comes in and he changes his coat and he puts on his sweater and then he puts on different shoes and he switches those things again at the end of the show.
Mhm.
And at some point, I think it was when he's coming into the house,
Mhm.
he takes off his sneakers from outside and he puts on his other shoes for his inside shoes.
Mhm.
And I noticed that he didn't lace them, but you couldn't see his feet in the camera, so I didn't know what kind of shoes he had. And so I wrote this letter because I was worried about him. Make sure you tie your shoes, Mr. Rogers. Very important to a 5-year-old. And my mom put it in an envelope and like told me she was going to mail it, but she had no intention of actually mailing it.
Mhm.
It was, one of those things you do to appease your children. But my dad saw it on the counter and was like, well, clearly it needs to go in the mail. So he put a stamp on it and he mailed it to Mr. Rogers.
Oh
um,
wow.
and like, I guess didn't tell my mother that he had done it because he thought he was just taking out the mail. And
Right.
so, a few weeks later, I get a letter from Mr. Rogers and it's typed and then it's signed and then there's an autographed picture that came with it, and this is it sat in a closet at my parents' house for years and years, and then when I moved home after I had been living in Chicago for so long, I moved home to Virginia, and we were taking stuff out of my mom's house. She had it framed in this like huge. It's all dusty, but
Can you turn around
um,
so we can see?
so yeah.
Oh.
So this is my autograph, uh, picture of Mr. Rogers, and then either he typed it or somebody typed it for him, and he signed it, so it's got their logo at the top.
Mhm.
But it's May 1983, so I wasn't even 5 because I was born in '79.
I was
Um,
10.
so, dear Jennifer, thank you for your fine letter. When I say goodbye at the end of the program, I want it to be a close time, and the camera shows my face and my shoulders. I slip my feet into my shoes. They are like moccasins. It is good that you ask about what you are wondering. You are special, your television friend, Mr. Rogers. So, like, right?
You are right to question.
Right? You are right to have questions. If you
Yes.
wonder about things you should ask, right?
Yes. Yes, be the one who asks the questions.
Yeah.
Because the worst that's going to happen is someone's going to get mad. No, no. Let me be really clear. Good
Yeah.
faith questions,
Right.
knowing, asking what you really want to know, asking out
Mhm.
of concern,
Yeah.
asking out of true concern, out of
Yeah.
true empathy, out of
Yeah.
true, I want the best for you, right?
Yeah.
Not asking to exert power or
Right.
to exert shame or guilt.
Yeah.
It's good to ask.
Yeah. So
Oh my
that
God.
it sits up on my shelf over here where I can see it all the time now. So they
Oh my God. It's
give
so
it to me.
wonderful. And I was born on his birthday, and
Oh.
I like to think that's a good omen.
I think it is for sure.
Yeah. I just love that. And I love that you got that connection with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We lived close to Pittsburgh, so I went up there a few times. I haven't been to the new museum,
Mm-hmm.
but I that's another thing that I want to do um before I make any major moves.
Yeah.
So, other than the fact that Mr. Rogers is always in the building, and um, we're gonna talk about Agatha later on. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm almost caught up on my goal for this week was that I had not written enough last week, and so I was trying to catch up to where I didn't succeed in catching up by the end of the week, but I am much closer than I was. And I've had a few really solid sprints that have gone. The sprints that we did together were some of the best that I had all week. Um, and so I sort of know what needs to happen, and I'm excited about the next scene. I'm introducing some new characters in this next scene, so I did get a little distracted because I went onto Pinterest to start making like face claims and like because I need to know what they look like and who whatever. So I'm trying to figure out who these people are, and so I'm setting up my like vision board of the characters so that I can describe them in consistent ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is she tall or is she short? And like, what did her hair look like? And I forgot what I said about like I don't want to. I'm trying to limit how much of that level of editing I'm going to have to do later because of like character inconsistencies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So and this book is introducing this group of people that's kind of like a coven, and I that's why I got really excited when Agatha came out, because I knew this book is that kind of thing where it's a group of like 5 women, and they're suburban women, and they're different ages and they have different backgrounds and whatever. So um, it certainly was not inspired by Agatha because it hadn't been announced yet when I started this planning this.
Right.
But it's a nice like overlap that those things are happening at the same time. Um, so I'm trying to make it like a balanced group where they all have different skills and they all have different value that they bring to it, but then they also have to have like a reason why they're friends and why they know each other and why they're working together, and that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, so I even though I haven't hit the word count that I want, I have done a lot of the prep work and the research on who the people are so that I can listen to them talk better. Because a
Quality
lot,
over quantity.
yeah, like a lot of the time when I'm writing, I'll start with like a couple of paragraphs of just a summary for me of what's supposed to happen in the chapter. And then when I start writing, it either comes out as a whole bunch of description or it comes out as dialogue with no action.
Right.
And then I go back in and add the action later. But the dialogue doesn't come if I don't know enough about who the characters are. So that's kind of the work I've been doing this week, is figuring out who the people are.
Right.
And a couple of them have evolved from what I originally thought that they were going to be. But it's for the best because 2 of the characters I think were too similar, and
Mm-hmm.
so I had to like do something to differentiate them a little bit more, keep people from getting confused, and make sure that they all have like different voices so that
Mm-hmm.
it's clear just from the dialogue. I want it to be where like if I were to miss a dialogue tag somewhere, you still could figure out who it was based on the way they talk.
Right.
So that's kind of what I've been working on.
So you can hear them in your head too.
Yeah.
Oh wow. My week has been my week has been eventful. It's
Okay.
it's each week is getting better because each day is getting better.
Yay.
Yeah. And we were talking about how we're taking a break for the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to be spending yours with your boyos, your husband, and your family, and I will be spending it actually with my family too and my friends. But I'm also going to be doing a podcast
Mm-hmm.
that just dropped. Um, we just organized that maybe like a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Fuqua, Radio Rob, Jim Radio Rob, and I are doing that. Um, and it started, that was weird. It started as me talking about what we talked about, good faith and bad faith questions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Rob, who I've known for years, uh, listened to our podcast and he was like, "Oh, hey, why don't you be on mine?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" He's in pre production for his Equal First. And we got to talking, we caught up, and um, after we had talked a couple of times, I was like, "Hey, why don't we do The Lens, a
Mm-hmm.
limited series about the lens?" And it's from, I wanted it from a dude's perspective because I noticed I hadn't talked to near one man since then about this.
Yeah.
And he he's a lot like me if I
Mm-hmm.
was white male.
Okay.
So I'm interested in what a conversation with me would sound like if we're talking about this.
Yeah.
And I mean like me in just like all the best and worst ways. So I'm excited about that. We're going to start recording this weekend, and I
Mhm.
do not know about a launch yet because truly, I still need to wrap my head around how I'm marketing this podcast.
Mhm.
But people are finding it, so
Oh,
I'm
that's
not
good.
really I'm not really worried about that too much. I am also looking forward to my break because once these boxers are fulfilled,
Mhm.
the next thing will be getting all the divination cards out and
Mhm.
their dice out.
Sure.
And once that's done, there will be no more physical production for
Okay.
Sugar Evil. That's the stop. That's the hard stop.
Okay.
And I'm going to be concentrating on my web presence, concentrating
Mhm.
on my app,
Mhm.
concentrating on my website and the e-commerce store, and the other components I need to put into place to be able to do stuff like the Chaos Machine, which is my AI bot. That's
Mhm.
the name for my AI bot, the Chaos Machine. Start building that, start building my resume,
Mhm.
and start and go to school and take on all that Python stuff.
Mhm.
Um, Taking it on, learning it. And that's another reason why I'm taking a break from the podcast too, because I want to reduce everything down. And once the lens is done, I won't be recording it all until we pop back up in January.
Mhm. Is that
Okay.
when your in-person class is over?
No, my
Or you still
in-person
be there
class will not be over until March.
until March? Okay.
Right. But what will have happened by then, I hope, is that I'll have a better idea of how my rhythms look
Okay.
after a couple of months
Okay.
and how it looks, well, how this rhythm looks, and I'll be done recording the lens
Mhm.
and then have a couple of weeks of break and then can jump back into it.
Okay. So do
Uh,
you want to do like a check-in meeting the second week of January is the first is a Wednesday, but like the next week, do you want to do a check-in meeting about like what availability you have or what the schedule seems like or
yes, I do, but I'd also like to think we would also be doing sprints still.
Yes, oh good. I would very
Right.
much like to continue doing the sprints if that's
Right.
okay.
All right. Oh, I would love to keep doing sprints. It's just that I know that the recording takes a
Mhm.
lot of your time.
It does.
Taking that, and that's what I'm taking off your plate.
I
Not
appreciate
interaction with you. It's
it.
just
Yeah,
like
okay, good.
getting those hours back so you can
Yeah.
spend them on your kids.
Yeah.
And then when everybody is back and in school in
Yeah.
January,
Okay. Yeah, they're going back on the 6th, so
wow.
um
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So like during our sprints during that time, we can even talk about if we want to wait until the boyos are back in school altogether.
Okay.
Like let's have those conversations.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm not ending interaction with you. I'm just
Okay, good.
taking those editing hours off your plate.
Okay, good.
Like no,
Because I would miss you.
I would miss you too. And more closer to the point, you ain't getting rid of me. Seriously. Yeah, I still want to do the spritz.
Okay, good.
But I'm still how much time do we oh, we're just 20 minutes in. I forget we talked a lot longer
We did. We
beforehand.
talked a lot before we started. Because well, last time I jumped right in, and I think that kind of upset the balance a little bit.
Oh no, it was fine. It was fun. I like it. I want you to make this your own, so I want you to feel confident saying, "Hey, we gonna talk about this shit today." I'm like, okay, looks
Yeah.
like you're my friend. And I think that's the reason why asking the questions, it's just, it's been on my mind. And it's
Mhm.
been all around me lately about asking in good faith, asking
Mhm.
the right questions.
Mhm.
It even struck me while I was watching Agatha because it was based on the questions and who's
Mhm.
asking the questions.
Yeah.
Billy asked a really good question. Who am I?
Yeah.
Right. And And Lilia was asking the right questions as well,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't like the answers.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about this kind of work. It doesn't care about your reputation or your ego. And the folks who are sitting up there trying to do it for clout, you know they're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not, well, let me put it this way. They have a place, but it's not the place they think it is. And not for the reasons that they think they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It has a place in here, if anything else, to keep people in positions where to keep people in positions where they're not doing a lot of harm.
Sure.
Right? And then sometimes harm mitigation is the best we can ask for.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always going to be weird. It's always going to be a step out of time
Mm-hmm.
because you find yourself doing things that are good, maybe a little weird, but are good and consistent with your character, but you don't quite understand why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't understand it until you go a little farther and you look back. And this is what that rest period is for. You look back and you see them kind of fit in with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And that was consistent with her story. She was mad because of how the world see her. I see a lot of myself in her. I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. It's like she's been doing this for 300 years and all
Mm-hmm.
she got was bad rep, bad rep, bad rep. And all she was doing was getting mad at bad rep, bad rep, bad rep.
Yeah.
And like she said, it's easier to be invisible. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And what that really is fear because who wants to look like a dipshit for real? Who wants to? No one
Right.
wants to.
Yeah.
And when you know that that is your life, that is your calling,
Mm-hmm.
huh, it makes you not want to.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why her situation is the reason why a lot of people who are given gifts just kind of drop them
Mm-hmm.
because it's a pain in the asshole. It really is. But I love that as soon as she realized that she really was lonely and
Mm-hmm.
she really needed a coven who understood her.
Mm-hmm.
And she already knew the rhythm of how her stuff works. She didn't want to face it because then you have to be responsible for it.
Right.
And the moment she was responsible for it is the moment where she was kick ass. When the scary seven or whatever they called the
Yeah.
Salem
Yeah.
Seven
Yeah. Yeah.
showed up, and she was just like she was like, I loved being a witch. And she
Yeah.
closed the
She's
door,
ready to let it go at that point, and like she knew.
and her command, it was just as elegant as the goddess voice. You notice
Mm-hmm.
that she
Yeah.
had it was that still elegance, just like
Yeah.
she flips over the tower, everything she knows what to do,
Yeah.
and it kills five of them. I don't know what happened to the other two. Kills
Yeah. It
five of
was.
them,
Yeah.
and then
That was so beautiful too.
it
Like
was
the
gorgeous.
cinematically, it was so pretty. I've seen some. I'll have to try to find them again. But I where people were talking, making connections to like defying gravity. Like she's defying gravity, and I was like, I
Hmm.
need somebody to do an edit where they line it with that song.
Please do, and I'm quite sure it will be before the finale next week.
Right.
And she finally gets it, and then when she is reborn, she goes back to the teacher because this all starts again
Because it's
with
all starting over. Yeah.
it all starts with learning and it starts with the lesson. It is always about the lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get mastery? How do we get to the point where she was at the end
Mm-hmm.
long before we get to our end? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
closer to Jen, who's very powerful and she's a root worker.
Mm-hmm.
But she said she was what is the word that they use when their powers are taken away?
Bound.
Bound. I don't think she's bound
I
because
think it's in her head. I think she's bound herself.
I think so
Because
too.
she let what that guy said to her get to her, and
Hmm.
so she can't access it anymore. But it's an internal block and not an external block.
Right. It comes back to asking yourself hard questions. Be the one who asks the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Be the one who asks the questions of yourself. Why am I so unhappy by this?
Mm-hmm.
Why does the green skin and the hooked nose and the mole and the pointy hat burn you up so fucking much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If I had to guess, if you were asking me,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's because I'm already not taken seriously.
Yeah.
And this is a respect issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already not taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to go into places where they not only do not take me seriously, but they feel they're entitled to their disrespect,
Mm-hmm.
but also entitled to their anger when I tell them what's going to happen. They have ignored me. They do what they're going to do. It happens and they look at me. You did this. No, Peaches, you did.
Right. I warned you about it coming. Like, I didn't
Right.
cause it to come. Yeah.
No, I told you once again. It's why didn't you speak up? If we wouldn't have had this problem had you not told me. Yeah, you would have.
It's a whole Cassandra thing. Nobody's listening.
Right.
Like, we're talking, but nobody's listening.
Exactly. But it does start with asking yourself,
Mm-hmm.
why do these things upset you so much?
Mm-hmm.
And listening to the answer. Because that's the
Mm-hmm.
hard part. Because we don't want to face those things about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it hurts. Your body knows the score. Your body knows the answers to these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to push it off because that hurts.
Mm-hmm.
But digging deep and knowing and understanding why you do what you do and recognizing when you feel like you've been disrespected
Mm-hmm.
and how to recover from that.
Mm-hmm.
The way I do that is understanding that is a function of my job
Mm-hmm.
and looking seriously as to whether or not I want to continue doing my job.
Mm-hmm.
What am I getting out of this work that would keep me in the state where people disrespect me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a couple of things. Number one, I love the job. I absolutely love it. God, I love this. Seeing joy in people's faces is like life, brother. It's my own personal heroine. Hit me again. Yes. And it's also the fact that the more I ask questions, the more I get answers,
Mm-hmm.
the more my plan becomes clear. And I know if I'm telling myself the truth, what results,
Mm-hmm.
right, is the pinnacle of joy at that moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I refuse to love and hurt at the same time. I refuse to hurt thinking about the things I love. And I refuse to hurt doing the things I enjoy. And I enjoy my job. So I enjoy my job and I enjoy me.
Mm-hmm.
And much like anybody else outside, if I'm having beef with someone, I like walking up to them and saying, "Are we good?" Having that hard conversation,
Mm-hmm.
clearing matters between us. And the first person I do that with before anyone else is myself. If I have a beef with myself, I need to quash that shit quick because it's strenuous having an estranged relationship. It is hard on your nerves and on your body to have strained relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. I'm like, with yourself? Nah, that's that's a lot. That's too much.
Mm-hmm.
But asking the questions also comes with asking the questions. You have to be careful about your motivations about why you're asking. Do you really want to know? Do you really want to help? Or do you want to be nosy? And do you want to use this for ammunition? Do you want to sit up there and lord over your intelligence or try to humiliate people? And this kind of falls flat for me too because I'm autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, neurodivergent people ask questions because they want to know the information.
Yeah.
They want to know the data.
Yeah.
Better information makes better choices.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make a poor choice because you booty hurt.
Right.
That's not
I
what we're doing.
Yeah, I had this is for this week actually. I had a little bit of an issue because it's the end of the quarter with my son's teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so um I didn't understand something about the last project that they had to do right before grades were due.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started writing out my questions, and I used a fair amount of academic jargon. I wanted her to understand that I was coming from a perspective of being a teacher and knowing what she was doing. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, when did you do this, and how did this work, and I wrote all these questions like, I just want to know. I want to understand your
Mm-hmm.
process. I want to understand how you're teaching this class so that I can better prepare my son for
Mm-hmm.
success.
Right.
Um, but I showed the questions to a friend of mine who's also a teacher, and she's more of like she's a much more touchy feely kind of a person than I am,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, um, "You want to rephrase?" And I was like, "I have 10 questions, and I want to know the answers to them." And she's like, "Yeah, you want to maybe start with like 2, because otherwise it sounds like you're questioning this woman's competency." And I'm like, "I am questioning her competency, but like
Yes.
she's." And my friend was like, "She's gonna get defensive, and she's gonna get mad, and she's not gonna want to talk to you anymore, and you don't want to burn that relationship." And I was like, "Oh yeah, probably."
That's entirely her problem. And let
But
me tell
like
you
not on
why.
step one. I mean, I was like, ugh. So then I backed off, and I was like, all right, let me do it a little bit more diplomatic. So I wrote a like shorter email that was more like, in the spirit of us working together for this child's success, I would like to know about blah blah blah. And it was like stupid and vague, and I would have hated it, but like I said whatever. So she called me to talk about it, and we had a reasonable conversation. And then she had to cut we had to cut it off because she had to go get her kid. But I was like, I was like, I really appreciate you giving me this time, and we can continue this conversation at conferences, because parent conferences are next week. And
Right.
she's like, oh, okay. Like you could hear on her voice that she really wanted this to be over.
Right.
And I'm like, oh no, this is not over.
Right. And the thing is that
But it was just, I just want to know, like, I don't want there to be like, but I know that that's a thing, that when I ask questions like this, people feel judged, and I'm like, I'm not trying to judge you, I just want to understand.
right. Here's the thing. That's where consistency comes in.
Yeah.
Because how they feel about you asking them about your children is their
Hmm.
business.
Yeah,
Truly.
that's true.
This is your child that
Hmm.
we're talking about. So if I'm gonna pull this in first person, if I'm gonna sit up there and ask you questions that affects my child,
Hmm.
yes, you are going to get direct answers. Yes, you will be questioned. Why? Because you're supposed to be an expert and you should
Yeah.
be on this in whatever style you choose.
Yeah.
So if she's a Miss Frizzle, if she is a Miss Sally,
Right.
if she's Mr. Ratburn, that's cool. All of them are
Mhm.
cool. Let me
Yeah.
know what your process is so
Right.
I can understand your process so we
Right.
can make this fit. They
Yeah.
getting defensive is their problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their defensiveness, like, why are you asking me this? Because I want to know. So
Exactly.
because I want to know.
Yeah.
Because once I know, I can work with you. I'm not into guessing. All
I'm
right.
sure you're doing great. I just want to understand how and why you're doing what you're doing.
Right.
Like,
And so this is where consistency comes in. You come in like, I have these questions because I want to I want to build the infrastructure of my child's learning life with you
mhm.
around what is he supposed to expect from you,
Mhm.
even if it's chaos,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
What I'm supposed to expect from you and my child being in your class, even if it's chaos.
Mhm.
And what to do if something goes sideways. I mean, sideways aside from the usual chaos.
Yeah.
If we can get those things together, then we're
Mhm.
going to be fine. And yes, it is going to end up sometimes with teachers being defensive, but that is not a reason to stop. Thing is
Mhm.
that people get defensive so you will stop being
That's true.
consistent.
That is true.
That's not what we're doing. This is my child.
Mm.
So we are going to be consistent because you're fucking with my children. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and what will happen is this is not your first time at the school with these parents, right? I mean, with these
It,
teachers, right?
this so th- this is a new school for this child.
I.
he's in a new program that he wasn't, that's different. And a lot of the other kids have been in this program for 2 years already. And I think that he may be at a disadvantage because this is his first year in this program, and some of the other kids have done it before.
Have you stated that to her?
Yes, we had.
Clearly, have you stated it
I probably need
explicitly?
to state it more clearly and phrase it differently than I did. Because I kind of was speaking from a lot of the children may be having a similar problem to what my kid is having, but I need to just be like, look, my kid is this.
Right. Yeah. This is a program that requires a
Mhm.
lot of tribal knowledge,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was built around a cohort in the community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My child is late coming to this, so not only do we have to, he personally has to learn how to find his place and navigate this
Mm-hmm.
on a student level, peer level, but he also has to figure this out between him and you. And
Yeah.
I have to figure out between him and me. And then the
Yeah.
two of us have to figure this out. And I'm reaching out to you and asking these questions to make sure that he knows how to navigate this. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to leave this to chance. I don't want to sit up there and guess what you're going to do, or guess what's expected, or guess what's going to happen next.
Right.
I'm asking these questions so I know. And me personally, I tell him I'm too autistic to be guessing.
Well, after we had that talk where you were helping me work out what my block was, and about my dad and whatever, and you mentioned, and you'd mentioned it before, that like some of my responses to things sound autistic. I went and took a test.
Mm-hmm.
I did the screener, and it was like, a score above the threshold doesn't mean you're autistic, but nobody who's neurotypical ever scores above a 64. And I
Mm-hmm.
got 108.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so
all right.
I might not be autistic, but I am not. I am definitely not neurotypical.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so, yeah, this is, you have the right to ask.
Yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
you have the right to ask. When you
Mm-hmm.
have questions, you should ask.
Yeah.
Mr. Roger told you that.
Mr. Rogers told me to, so I got to.
Told you that a long time ago.
We are
It's okay to
following
ask.
Mr. Rogers' directions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay to ask. But it's also very important, and this is where personal responsibility comes in, to make it clear why you need this and why this is
Mm-hmm.
being, why you're asking this of them, and to let them know that you feeling booty hurt about a thing. Now, mind you, we're coming in about with empathy, joy,
Right.
truth, kindness, and anti-greed. That's still
Mm-hmm.
going to piss some people off because you have the audacity to ask them a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you go in there and you ask, and if they still get mad, that's at them.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to let them know, it's like, these are questions that's going to be continued to be asked, and I will ask them kindly, but
Mm-hmm.
I will also expect an answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to chase you for them
Yeah, I will.
because this is my kid. This will happen again.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to
That's
have that
my main
conversation
thing.
with
Is
you
like, we
twice.
need to make sure this doesn't happen
Right.
again.
Yeah, I don't want to have this. I want to have different conversations,
Right.
not this one.
Yeah. Well, I told him too that I was starting next week. She puts everything online on their Canvas program, and so I was like, starting next week, when you get home from school every day, you're gonna pull up the assignments, and we're gonna look at, so that I understand what the expectations are, and what, and then we're gonna talk about like what your plans are for getting these things done,
Mm-hmm.
because she's trying to give them a lot of freedom and self-determination, but he's 10. So
Well,
like,
okay, let's back up because that sounds a lot like the Montessori model, and I actually do like that because
yeah.
I don't like teachers who teach the test.
No, I mean, I really, by and
But
large,
it
it's a
also,
project-based program, and they
mhm,
do all these cool things, and a lot of it is student determined, and like on the outside, it looks amazing. Like it's very creative. It's a lot of like interdisciplinary work.
mhm,
I was like, it sounds super fun, but my kid got like sucked in on the fun part and didn't do the like academic part.
right. And so we're going to have to see, like you said, bring it in, look at it, and make sure that he's explaining to you.
Yeah, we need to like he needs to learn to prioritize the things that are actually important for the grade over the things that are the fun part of the assignment, which I don't think he knows.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think he needs to do
No.
both.
Well, yeah,
But
I mean, he does
what
need
I
to
would
do both, but
recommend,
like,
is reading over it, letting him do it, and then y'all going over it together. Let him have
mm,
his fun first,
true. Yeah.
and then read over. It's like, okay, you're supposed to do this one. Where is that in this project? Oh,
Yeah.
well, this needs to
Yeah.
be done. How do we go about? What are the steps in order to do it? And that's another thing about asking questions, is asking questions and asking the right ones is not
Mm-hmm.
only exercise in understanding yourself, but it's also an exercise in discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go through it, just like with Freddie with this, and you look at it and it's not turning out the way you want it to be, go back over the instructions. Like, did I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Was this done? Why didn't I do that? Why did my body just want to skip that?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's hard. What
Mm-hmm.
makes it hard? Is it the fact that the information doesn't come to me easily?
Mm-hmm.
Is it that if I'm sorry, my nose is itching. I must be getting onto
It's okay.
something. I must be getting onto something here. Is it that I don't like how I feel when I'm not right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like how I think people will think of me if I'm not right, if I don't
Mm-hmm.
do this perfectly. What is it?
Mm-hmm.
And then make a plan to either bribe or exercise or something your way through
Mm-hmm.
doing the hard part
Mm-hmm.
and get to the fun part, or doing the hard part while you're doing the fun part, so
Mm-hmm.
we can get it all done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult sometimes because you don't want to do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't go away when you're after you turn 13 or 14 or 21 or
Right.
50, right?
Yeah. No,
It
it's
will
true.
always be looking at the hard part and saying, why don't I like this? And what can I do to make it so I like it?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with me in Python. I do not like being wrong. I don't like it. I don't like being wrong. I don't like it when my compiler is telling me that I failed something because I didn't indent something twice over, right? I hate it. 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 But what do I do to make sure that these things are done? Because this is a requirement. If I don't make those indents, this program is not going to work,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
So what can I insert into this to make it more fun and more enjoyable so I keep on
Mm-hmm.
doing it? And I had to do this two ways. I had to get a IDE that uses different colors and different
Mm-hmm.
fonts.
Oh, cool.
So it's fun and I can make it my way
Mm-hmm.
and I know what to look for. And the second thing is to build projects that I know I'm going to use and know I'm going to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, just going through it slowly and then taking a rest when I'm just done with it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then coming back to it with the same discipline. We're going to do hard and fun stuff at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I am with the asking of questions, because questions are a double-edged sword, much like the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Questions are the steel that we use to sharpen the truth. But remember that you're still using a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, and when using a weapon, knowing the kind of defenses that your opposition, your ops will have,
Mm-hmm.
even that, knowing what kind of resistance, I should say
Mm-hmm.
resistance, because it's not always ops. And because she's not on the other side,
Right.
she's pushing against what hurts. She's
Yeah.
pushing because you're pushing on what hurts and she's shielding that.
Right.
Right? So it isn't, this isn't an opposition type thing. This is a resistance type thing. And I think, oh, that's what I wanted to say. Being clear
Mm-hmm.
as to what information you need and why you need it,
Mm-hmm.
being very truthful, good and bad about that.
Yeah.
It hurts immediately, but consistently over time,
Mm-hmm.
she will understand that you have respect. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't respect her, you would have just dogged her out. You just would have
Right.
cussed her out on this, and then talk about how my son would never do anything and da 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 da.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, like I don't want to be that. I've had those parents in
So
my
have I.
class, and I don't
Hmm.
want to be that lady. Like,
Right?
I don't want to be the one where they're like, "Oh gosh, it's Freddie's mom coming in again." But I also want my questions answered. So,
Right.
like,
So I'm like, when they're like, "Oh, here she come," when they're talking about CK, they because I'm not here for their bullshit,
yeah.
and I much rather would be that woman.
Mm-hmm.
A woman you're going to answer, because if you give her a bullshit answer, she's going to call you on it, and she's going to ask you sweetly for the truth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have people afraid of me coming around for that
Mm-hmm.
than for being ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that's where I am. So I'm going to start first about what we're loving this week, because I already know your answer, and I'm going to keep this brief.
Okay.
I'm loving my toys. I got myself a light bright.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so fun.
It is so fun. But once again, I've got my toys here. I have my games
Mm-hmm.
here. And I'm just loving the fact that I am a game designer. And I am pushing towards getting all of my dreams in hand. And this turned out so good.
It's so good. It looks so good.
This turned out so well. And then on top of that, um, and then on top of everything else, all the stuff that I was afraid to do is getting done, right?
That's good. That's good.
And it feels good to feel accomplished. This is embossed, by the way.
Oh, nice.
And so it's raised, and I wish I could show this to you on the camera, but I can't. And I'm also loving the fact that these are so well made. Look at that. Look at teeth.
And this is that Make Playing Cards company?
No, this is
Website?
not
Or no?
making playing cards. This is
Okay.
a name and a language I do not have the tongue to pronounce off the top of
Oh,
my
okay.
head.
Okay.
But they did a superb job on these cards.
Oh, they look good.
They look so good. And there goes the sprites.
Aww.
And there goes my Willa.
It's so cute.
She is so cute. I love this. I'm a game designer. I'm a game designer. Okay. That, and both my boyfriend and the Cowboys and the Browns are playing not well. So that too. And Aaron Rodgers, forget him. He is not. He's not even Peyton or Eli Manning, let alone Tom Brady. Y'all need to stop treating him like he is. All right, I'm gonna step down off my soapbox. So tell me, what are you loving this week?
Well, we know that I'm loving Agatha. Like, it's amazing. It's such a good show.
It is such a good show,
It's such a good show.
and I
Well,
didn't
and
think they could top last week.
I know it was so good. I was like this is. I mean, this has happened on other episodes, but it ended, and I was like, that was just so well done. Like,
Yes,
it was so well. Everything about it was just so well done. The way the pieces come together and the puzzle is like organized, and and you finally see it from her perspective and in her order.
mm-hmm.
It was so good.
And the
Um,
fact that even though everything is out of order, you follow the
you still
story.
figure it out. Yeah. It was so
Oh,
cool. It was really good. And then I loved the costumes so
mm,
much. And I so, like Lily is the good witch because of course she is. And
right.
also Glinda is the witch of the North, which I think is kind of funny because I associate Patty LuPone with like New York and
Yes.
whatever. So she's the witch of the North. Um, so I loved that. That was great. And then Jen being the hag from Snow White, when her whole business is built around beauty and her like preoccupation with how other people see her,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. And then on top of that, the hag, the evil queen in Snow White, is the one that uses poison.
Right.
So like it's so
And
perfect.
Bane, and who's the fairest of them all?
Right. It's perfect. It's so perfect. And then, Agatha being like the Wicked Witch of Westview has been a thing that they were talking about before the show even came out. So like
Yeah.
that was to be expected.
The Wicked Witch of Westview, and the most iconic of all of them.
Yeah.
And
Well, and
she's
also
always
because
about,
yeah. And also because of Wicked coming out, she's being seen as the misunderstood character, that she's not just the straight evil character from the Wizard of Oz. She's also got this tragic backstory, and might not be the way other people have seen her, and has been, there's just like such an Elphaba connection there that is really good.
yeah.
Um
You're gonna have to force me to find Agatha likable. Now, don't get me wrong, she's an excellent character,
yeah.
but that girl's an asshole.
I mean,
And
she's a bad person by all
she's,
accounts, but
yeah.
like, I mean, but I think you could understand, you could have empathy for
Hmm.
her without necessarily condoning her behaviors. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't think she can control her powers, so I don't necessarily blame her for what happened to Alice. I
Right.
think she genuinely regrets it and feels bad about it and can't do anything about it, and that's
Hmm.
sad. But like she does
Yes.
make bad choices a
Yes.
lot. And
And
she knows she's doing it. Like she's actively making bad choices on purpose.
I don't know. I would like to say that up until Alice,
Yeah.
I think it was that point where it kind of dawned on her,
Yeah.
right? That,
Yeah.
you know what? You've been doing fuck shit for this entire time.
Yeah.
And you have to be accountable. And you have to take
Mhm.
some responsibility, even if
Yeah.
it was in self preservation,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That's the thing that's the problem I have with Agatha. That's the problem I have with Agatha, but I think it's because I see this problem in a lot of folks who have
Mhm.
power,
Mm.
and who have power out of a thirst and craving for self-preservation and being in redemption, actually being
Yeah.
seen as important or worthy or valuable. Because if I had to put a beat on what drives Agatha, it would be that.
Yeah.
And do you have to do some dirty stuff? Yeah, you do. Sorry. But she doesn't, she hadn't up until this point taken accountability for it. That's the reason
Mhm.
why Rio was chasing after her,
Mhm.
because she's cheated death,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At some point those accounts come due,
Mhm.
and the truth stinks through. And what irritates me about Agatha is that she's running from it, running from it, running from it, conning all these people to get her on the road so
Mhm.
she can con them and con them and con them to get to the end. She wants to cheat her way to the end. And
Mhm.
there is no cheating your way to the end when the universe wants its money. It isn't. And I think
Yeah.
that's what gets me about her. Is she bad? Yeah. Is she redeemable? Yeah. But she has to give me more than
She
what
does
she's
very
been
good.
giving
Yeah.
so far. Oh my God, this nose. Okay. But this is it's so good. So fun.
It's so good. Like every single episode has been strong and like funny and emotional. And that song at the end, I was
Time in a Bottle? Yes, I
yes.
love Jim Croce. And
Okay, that is my parents' song.
oh no.
So like they played that at my dad's funeral because like with over the like the different videos and pictures and stuff, the slideshow thing, that's the first song that they played on it, because like he bought her a pocket watch that's hanging on a little tree thing under a glass dome as a
Oh.
gift before they got like either right after they got married or before. He literally gave her Time in a Bottle as a present.
Oh.
And so like yeah, that song, I was not expecting it. And I was like, and he was a big Wizard of Oz fan. And I'm just like, oh my God.
It's like a hug from your dad.
Yeah, yeah, it really was.
And you're like, I miss you, Dad.
Yeah,
Fuck you
yeah.
for leaving.
I know. I know.
So yeah, that was like the And didn't they play that? I'm trying to find out where they played that somewhere else. I think they
It's
played this.
another X-Men movie. So it was the other. It was not in the MCU. It was when X-Men was
Oh, the
Fox.
Sony ones? Yeah. Oh.
They're so yeah. It was what's his face, the guy that has come back in WandaVision. That what's his name? Evan Peters.
Oh, Rough Boner. Okay, yeah, that guy.
So when he was Quicksilver,
Yes. When
there's
everything was slowed down and
yeah.
Okay. I was like, what is the it reminded me of something I could not remember. So yeah.
Right.
It
So
was
I
when he
don't
was
know.
running.
I mean, they had to know. Like, it's a purposeful choice, but
Mhm.
like, it's a good choice for this episode. But it also like connects back to that scene. Like, they have to know that people that watch this are going to remember that scene. Like,
They do it on purpose because it's fun as shit to do.
yeah.
Oh yeah, nostalgia makes money. I'm not gonna lie. And if you don't believe that, watch Deadpool, Wolverine, and Deadpool,
Oh right,
Deadpool and Wolverine. It
Yeah,
absolutely does. I saw
yeah.
that movie. I love that movie. Oh my god,
That movie was really funny.
it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. Okay, all right. So I'm just kind of thinking about this. I'm like, I'm getting verklempt because this really is. It hits you where it hurts.
Right.
It hits you where it hurts in the best possible way. So, hour and 15 minutes in, 15 minutes. What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? Okay, so I'm gonna, it's the same. I have the same goal every week. I got to put more words on this page than I put in last week.
Right.
So that's just, yeah. I think I did contact some of my accountability partners that I had worked with before, and was like, all right, here are the first 3 chapters. How do you feel about like meeting again? Or not, we didn't meet. We would exchange so like, let's go back to our once a week exchange so that I have a deadline somebody is looking for. And then I'm recording my end of week word count, and I'm trying to beat whatever the word count was last week, instead of doing like, I am trying to do like an average of 5,000 words a week, but if it doesn't work, I want to at least do more than I did the previous week.
Right.
So then I'm in competition with myself. So yeah, that's my goal. More words.
That sounds fun. It does. And I think I was thinking about writing a little app that reads your word count and gives you a medal accumulatively over like the week. And then it tabulates the ones for the month and gives you a little medal or a stamp. Oh, I should do Girl Scout badges.
Like, that would be cute.
I did 500 words today.
I don't know. I need the extrinsic motivation, but I tried like for the words, and it was distracting for me.
Right.
Because it's gamified or whatever. And I wrote like one sentence and stuff started showing up on the side. And I'm like, well, now I'm not going to keep writing because I got to see what the stuff is. Like, there's a monster and there's coins and it's too much. It's over. I need like, at the end of this writing session, I input this into something and it gets counted, and at some point that builds up to something.
Right. I think I might do that. But this week it's just it's prepping for actually it's fulfillment of my Spoonser Stabby, because I'm going to show you again. I'm going to show you the back. I'm going to show you that there's the brains in there. And then I'm going to show you that this is all in your head because it's the brain. I'm going to keep showing you that. All right. So
yeah,
I just love that. Fulfill all of these. Fulfill the other cards, and then clean up the space and prep for being a programmer again.
Okay.
And kind of think through that little word count medal app. Let me write that down, because now I'm getting to the point where if I know how to make things, I'm just going to make a bunch of stuff. I'm going to make a bunch of little stuff and build up a portfolio.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. This is so fun. I love this. I'm going to miss this over the holidays. I really, really am. Oh, God.
Well, but I'm still going to see you on Tuesdays.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Right? Yes.
Okay.
And even scheduled it so make sure it's clean past when I'm going to be in class.
Okay, good.
Okay. All right, then. The time is up, and I got to scoot because I've got doggos to feed.
All right.
perspective at all